Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise of information to bring you the crucial insights you need to understand complex issues.
That's right.
Today, we're diving into a situation unfolding in Newfoundland, Canada, a story that's as beautiful as it is, well, contentious.
Yeah, definitely contentious. We've
Yeah.
assembled a stack of compelling sources for this deep dive. Everything from a travel vlog that paints just a stunning picture of Newfoundland's untouched wilderness
Right.
to scientific explainers demystifying the power of wildfires and a particularly fiery critique of recent government actions.
Irie is probably the right word.
Our mission today is to thoroughly unpack these perspectives, really get a handle on the science of fire, explore that irresistible allure of nature, and examine the various, often conflicting viewpoints surrounding public access to natural spaces, especially during wildfire season.
So, you're about to gain a comprehensive understanding of a specific case that vividly illustrates broader universal tensions. We're talking about the delicate balance between public safety, the needs of ecosystems, and, fundamental individual freedoms.
hmm
We'll begin by immersing ourselves in the sheer, undeniable beauty that draws people to Newfoundland's hiking trails in the first place. Then we'll peel back the layers on the surprising science of wildfires, because fire isn't always what you think it is.
It really isn't.
And finally, we'll plunge headfirst into the controversial government decisions and the incredibly strong reactions they've sparked.
What's truly fascinating here is how these seemingly disparate threads, wild beauty, the chemistry of combustion, and the very concept of liberty, how they all converge.
Yeah.
And they raise profoundly important questions about how we manage our environment, protect our communities, and navigate our freedoms in a world facing increasingly complex ecological challenges.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with what makes Newfoundland so utterly captivating for outdoor enthusiasts. We're drawing from our source, one adventure at a time.
Ah, yes, the vlog.
Yeah, this vlog paints such a vivid, almost visceral picture of the remote beauty that calls to van lifers, hikers, anyone really yearning for an authentic escape. These travelers spent a significant amount of time near the charming historic town of Trinity, specifically out at Fort Point. Now imagine this. They discovered it was a free camping location.
Free camping. Nice.
Right, perched right on the edge of the Atlantic. Can you picture waking up to that expansive ocean view right from your van door? It sounds pretty idyllic.
It really does.
They wisely chose a spot a little down the hill, seeking natural shelter from the rain and the famously high winds that often sweep across the Newfoundland coast.
Smart move.
But even then, perched sort of precariously on those cliffs, they couldn't help but feel a little nervous about their dogs getting too close to the edge. I mean, it's a sheer drop.
Yeah, you would be. And that sense of wild, untamed beauty is truly amplified by the history of Fort Point itself. It's not just a beautiful campsite, it's a living historical landmark.
Right, there's layers to it.
Exactly. This strategic point was first established way back in 1748 by the British, specifically to protect their crucial assets in Trinity, which was a vital fishing and trading hub at the time.
Okay.
History, as it often does, brought conflict, and Fort Point was later destroyed by the French during their temporary takeover in 1762. But it was reborn, transforming into a lighthouse station in 1871.
Wow, 1871.
Yeah, and incredibly, it had a year-round lighthouse keeper right up until the 1990s.
No kidding.
Yeah, the cool part is it's still operational today, guiding ships, and it's open to the public from June to September. So you're not just camping, you're literally stepping into centuries of maritime history.
That adds a whole other dimension.
It really does. And it adds a layer of depth to the remote appeal. This kind of underscores why Newfoundland's rugged, quiet coastlines resonate so deeply with those seeking an escape, making any restrictions on access feel particularly impactful, almost like a personal loss of connection to something profound.
That's a powerful connection between nature and history.
Yeah.
And the source makes it really clear that Trinity itself is truly an outpost. It's home to a tiny population of only, 76 people?
76? That's tiny.
Right. Services are incredibly limited. The vloggers mentioned just one restaurant and a couple of boat tours. If you need any significant supplies, you're looking at a 13 to 14-mile drive to Port Rexton, which itself is still a pretty small, quiet community.
So definitely not convenient.
No, this isn't your average suburban getaway where everything is at your fingertips. And the journey to this specific camping and hiking area is in itself an adventure. Picture a 6 or 7 kilometer gravel road.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, a real teeth rattler, riddled with potholes. And so narrow, you're practically holding your breath, hoping not to meet another vehicle.
Oh, man.
The vloggers explicitly warn that it's not recommended for rigs over 25 feet, noting that turning around can be a real challenge once you're committed.
Yeah, I bet.
They even recounted a tense encounter with several large dump trucks that were building a house while they were there, making those narrow passes even more precarious. Sounds like you really earned that remote beauty.
Absolutely. It's about the journey and the destination, right? And once you overcome those access challenges, the hiking, according to our source, is just unparalleled.
Okay.
The Skirwing Trail is described as an absolute must-do hike. It's earned this reputation as one of the top 35 trails in all of North America and Europe.
Wow, that's high praise.
That's a serious claim, yeah.
Yeah.
And the detailed description in the vlog certainly backs it up. The trail is a 5.3-kilometer moderate loop, meticulously designed and beautifully maintained.
Okay.
The features sound breathtaking. Dramatic sea stacks rising from the ocean, stunning cliffs plunging into the depths, and pristine beaches below. And for wildlife enthusiasts, the potential for sightings is a huge draw. Bald eagles soaring overhead, elusive foxes, whales breaching offshore, maybe even moose foraging in the distance.
Sounds incredible.
The vloggers experienced it on a cloudy, foggy day, yet they still declared it exceeded their already sky-high expectations, calling it awesome and one of those ones you don't want to miss.
Even in bad weather.
Even then.
Yeah.
They pointed out that on a clear day, you could easily spend 3 to 4 hours completing the loop, not the suggested 1 to 2 hours.
Right.
Simply because you'd be compelled to stop at every single vantage point to soak in the sheer beauty. It truly emphasizes the immersive visual appeal and the profound experience this place offers.
So it's less about ticking off kilometers and more about truly being there, soaking it all in. What other gems did they discover on their coastal exploration?
Well, beyond the Skirwink, another favorite trail mentioned by the travelers, similar in its stunning coastal appeal but shorter, is the Chance Cove Trail, which offers direct beach access.
Okay.
But the One Adventure at a Time vlog doesn't stop at just designated trails. It beautifully captures their general coastal exploration near the campsite. They describe checking the tides meticulously.
Gotta watch those tides.
Definitely. They even tasted seaweed right off the rocks, which, they found tasted exactly like salted seaweed. Big surprise. And hitting literal dead ends due to completely vertical rock layers.
Huh.
Creating what they playfully called a box canyon that was impossible to pass without swimming.
Right.
This speaks volumes about the raw, untamed, and sometimes challenging nature of the coastline itself, inviting a deeper, more personal, and often surprising connection with the environment.
Yeah, you're really interacting with it.
Exactly. What's also highlighted are the unique perspectives offered by boat tours, specifically Trinity Eco Tours. The travelers observe these tours going out twice a day, rain or shine,
Dedication.
reiterating that the coastline is just amazing here and truly something you won't fully appreciate unless you get out on the water. These tours reveal the spectacular coastline from a new angle, showcase massive icebergs silently drifting by, islands teeming with puffins, and frequent whale sighting. Yeah. They even noted the occasional presence of the incredibly rare stellar sea eagle, an immense raptor from Russia that has apparently been spending its summers in Newfoundland.
Wow. From Russia.
Yeah, although they personally missed seeing it. But apparently it's often spotted.
Okay, so this picture of Newfoundland's cherished wild beauty provides the essential context, because once you understand why people are so drawn to these untamed spaces, why they crave these unique, immersive experiences, the reasons for restricting access and the backlash that often follows become far clearer. And that's exactly where we're headed next. You can already feel the potential conflict brewing, can't you?
That's right. Before we delve into the controversy surrounding access, it's crucial to establish a foundational understanding of wildfires themselves. We're drawing from sources like The Science of Wildfires and that TED-Ed piece, Why Certain Naturally Occurring Wildfires Are Necessary.
Okay.
And here's a truly counterintuitive insight. Despite their destructive power, many ecosystems actually depend on fire for their survival and renewal.
Depend on it. That sounds backwards.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a vital, natural process that really complicates the simple narrative of fire equals bad.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does this creative destruction, as you put it, even begin? What's the basic science?
Let's quickly touch on Fire Chemistry 101. Trees and other vegetation contain these energy-rich compounds known as hydrocarbons. Think of them like the natural fuel stored within the plant material itself.
Like gasoline, sort of.
Exactly, similar chemical basis. When wood is heated, say to around 150 degrees Celsius, its cellular structure starts to break down, releasing volatile gases.
Oh, okay.
These are the gases we smell as smoke.
Yeah.
And they're packed with those same hydrocarbons. When these gases are heated enough and mixed with oxygen, they readily ignite, combusting to form flames.
Right, the visible fire.
Precisely. This fundamental chemical reaction is incredibly powerful. It's responsible for over 100,000 uncontrolled wildfires in the U.S. annually, consuming a staggering 3 million hectares of forest and brush, an area roughly the size of Maryland, every single year.
That scale is truly immense. It's hard to even picture. But if fire can be beneficial, what are the core ingredients that make it happen? I remember something about a triangle.
You got it. That brings us to the classic fire triangle: heat, oxygen, and fuel. These three elements are absolutely essential for any fire to start and continue.
Heat, oxygen, fuel. Okay.
Foresters and firefighters use this concept as their foundational tool. A fire will always spread most rapidly in the direction where these three elements are most abundant and accessible.
Makes sense.
Conversely, to extinguish a fire, you must eliminate or significantly limit one of these three elements. The heat can come from natural sources like lightning, or more often human ignition like a carelessly discarded cigarette.
Right.
The type of fuel, whether it's lighter fuels like dry grasses, leaves, and pine needles that ignite and burn quickly, or heavy fuels like thick branches and tree trunks that take longer but burn more intensely, plays a crucial role in how quickly a fire spreads and how hot it burns.
So grass fires move fast, logs burn slow but hot.
Exactly. And the quantity of fuel, of course, determines how long and how far a fire can spread. As for oxygen, air is roughly 21% oxygen, and most fires only need around 16% to ignite and sustain themselves.
Okay.
Now, back to your point about fire being beneficial. This is where the ecological role of fire truly becomes counterintuitive and incredibly important, while our initial instinct is to see fire as purely destructive.
Yeah, that's definitely my first thought.
Many ecosystems, particularly in regions like the boreal forests, have actually evolved to depend on it for renewal and maintenance. For example, in grasslands, controlled fires promote the vigorous growth of native herbs and grasses, preventing invasive species or trees from crowding them out and dominating the landscape.
So it clears out the competition.
Precisely. And certain forest species have developed remarkable adaptations to not just survive fire, but to thrive because of it. Take the jackpine. Its cones are sealed shut with resin, but when exposed to intense heat from a wildfire, they pop open, dropping seeds directly into the ash-enriched soil below. This ensures new growth even if the parent trees perish.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not just about destruction, it's almost like a reset button or a natural form of spring cleaning for the forest. And that ash, which seems like mere residue, actually plays a vital role in this new growth.
You nailed it. The ash isn't just waste. It's a powerful natural fertilizer, rich in vital nutrients like calcium, potassium, and magnesium, all essential for robust plant growth.
Okay.
It also helps neutralize acidic soils, making them more fertile and hospitable for new plant life. Furthermore, intense fires remove the forest canopy, that dense uppermost layer of leaves and branches that blocks out sunlight.
Right, letting light reach the ground.
Exactly. This allows crucial sunlight and rainfall to reach the forest floor, encouraging the growth of other grasses and wildflowers that were previously shaded out, reducing competition for water and nutrients.
That makes sense.
What's crucial here, and often misunderstood, is that forests that go too long without burning accumulate excessive fuel, dead wood, dry brush, dense undergrowth.
Oh, okay.
This buildup acts like a tinderbox, drastically increasing the risk of hotter, larger, and far more severe megafires that are truly catastrophic. So in many cases, naturally occurring fire is actually a necessary part of preventing these future, more devastating blazes.
That's a powerful argument for fire as a natural process. But when we look at the statistics, most wildfires aren't natural, are they? I thought I heard you mention that earlier.
No, you're absolutely right. They're not. When we look at the causes of wildfires, nearly 90% of wildland fires in the U.S. are directly human caused.
90%.
Yeah, we're talking about everything from illegal or unattended campfires, discarded cigarettes flicked from car windows, and outright arson, to less obvious sources like sparks from power equipment or even fallen power lines. Only about 10% are truly natural in origin, almost always from lightning strikes, or in extremely rare cases, lava flows.
That statistic about human-caused fires really underscores the challenge. It means most fires are in some way preventable, or at least originating from our activities. But even once a fire starts, its behavior isn't just random, is it? What are the other elements that truly dictate how a blaze will rage?
Indeed, fire behavior is highly dynamic and influenced by a complex interplay of factors, with weather being perhaps the most significant driver.
Weather.
A wind, for example, doesn't just push flames, it intensifies them by increasing the oxygen supply, and can even create its own microclimates by drying out moist areas ahead of the fire front.
Wow.
Fires can also generate their own powerful winds through the upwelling of superheated air, drawing in fresh oxygen from surrounding areas, creating a dangerous feedback loop.
Self-sustaining almost.
In a way, yes. Temperature and sunlight also play a crucial role. During the day, sunlight heats the ground, causing warm air to rise, which often leads to fires burning upslope with surprising speed.
Faster uphill.
Often, yeah. At night, as the ground cools, air currents typically travel downward, so fires tend to burn downslope, often less intensely as humidity tends to rise after dark.
Interesting.
Understanding these factors is paramount for effective firefighting and land management strategies. The easiest element to control from the fire triangle is often the fuel.
Right, remove the fuel.
Exactly. Foresters strategically employ a technique called prescribed burning, intentionally lighting controlled fires before the dry season to remove dead wood and other accumulated fuel.
Fighting fire with fire, literally.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This carefully managed process creates a mosaic of burned and unburned areas, breaking up fuel continuity and significantly reducing the risk of catastrophic, uncontrolled megafires. Firefighters might also use this technique during an active wildfire, setting backfires to destroy the fuel supply before the main blaze reaches it.
Okay.
And of course, water remains a fundamental tool, attacking all three parts of the fire triangle. It dampens the fuel, cools the burning area, and creates steam, which effectively blocks oxygen from reaching the flames.
Sometimes, specialized gels or slurries are added to water to make it stickier and more effective, often dropped with precision from the air by specialized aircraft. You've probably seen those tankers.
Yeah, the big red ones. It sounds like we've collectively gotten a lot smarter about managing fires, but there was a time not so long ago when the default approach was simply to put out every fire, no matter what, right? That seems to have had some unintended consequences based on what you said about fuel buildup.
Yes, absolutely. And that brings us to a critical lesson learned. Knowing when not to fight a fire, or rather, when to allow natural processes to occur. For much of the 20th century, particularly in North America, the prevailing strategy was one of full suppression.
Put them all out.
Put them all out as quickly as humanly possible, regardless of its size or location. The unintended and devastating consequence of this policy was that forests became unnaturally overgrown with far more small trees, dense undergrowth, and accumulated dead wood than would occur in a healthy, fire-adapted ecosystem.
Like we talked about, the tinderbox effect. Exactly. As a direct result, the frequent, smaller, less intense fires that naturally cleared out fuel were largely eliminated. This set the stage for what we now commonly refer to as megafires. Vast, intensely hot, and incredibly severe blazes that consume everything in their path, causing far more ecological damage and posing a much greater threat to human communities.
That makes sense. So suppression backfired.
In many ways, yes. A sobering study by the American Geophysical Union found that between 1984 and 2011, the number of large forest fires in 17 western U.S. states increased by about 7 per year, and the total area burned annually increased by over 36,000 hectares.
Wow.
This clearly illustrates the devastating long-term impact of suppressing nature's own cleansing process.
And as if that wasn't enough complexity, climate change seems to be throwing gasoline on the fire, so to speak, creating even more favorable conditions for these megafires.
Absolutely. Climate change is playing an increasingly significant and undeniable role in the growing severity and frequency of wildfires across the globe. A warming climate leads to persistently higher temperatures, widespread and prolonged drought conditions.
Drier fuels.
Exactly. And earlier snowmelt in mountainous regions, which in turn causes earlier spring growth, providing more fuel for longer periods. It also allows destructive insect infestations, like those by winged bark beetles, to expand into new regions where they couldn't previously survive due to colder temperatures.
More dead trees equals more fuel.
You got it. More infestations mean more dead and dying trees, and more dead trees mean exponentially more fuel. All these factors combined may explain why, in the U.S., the 7 most severe fire seasons since 1960 have all occurred after the year 2000.
That's a stark statistic.
It is. And it's certainly not just a U.S. phenomenon either. Studies predict that drier places in the middle latitudes in Australia will likely experience a significant increase in fires long term. Even places at higher latitudes, like parts of Canada, are at greater risk due to their vast, carbon-rich peat soil.
Peat burns.
Ooh. Peat burns incredibly well and for a long time. It can smolder for weeks or even months, releasing immense amounts of stored carbon and acting as a fuel source as potent and long-burning as coal.
This is where it truly gets interesting and deeply complicated. We've seen that fire is not just a destructive force, but also a vital, even necessary part of many ecosystems. This dual nature of fire, its ecological necessity for certain forests alongside its undeniable danger to human settlements, sets the stage perfectly for the intense debate about restricting access to natural areas. It's clear that uncontrolled fires, especially those ignited by human carelessness, are a pressing problem, particularly when they impact communities. But the idea of preventing all fires, or even all human presence in natural spaces, has complex ecological and profound social implications.
Precisely.
So now let's pivot to the specific government actions in Newfoundland and the incredibly strong reactions detailed in our Moose on the Loose source. Facing an escalating wildfire situation, Premier John Hogan announced some truly significant and, frankly, drastic measures aimed at addressing the crisis.
Yeah, drastic seems appropriate.
The most striking changes were to the fines for violating forest fire regulations. They skyrocketed from a mere $75.
$75, that's nothing.
Right, to a staggering $50,000 for a first offense and potentially up to $150,000 for subsequent offenses.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
Huge, and it wasn't just about the money. The penalties also included imprisonment. For a first offense, imprisonment in default of payment went from just 3 days to up to 6 months.
6 months jail time.
For a first offense, potentially. For subsequent offenses, fines could hit $150,000 and imprisonment up to a full year. Premier Hogan's rationale was delivered with very clear and forceful language. He stated that penalties needed to be higher, that the government needed to mean business, and that these severe steps were absolutely necessary to protect innocent Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, their families, and their communities.
Strong word.
Very. To further enforce compliance, they even provided a snitch line, a specific phone number for people to report suspicious activity.
A snitch line.
Yeah. The government also explicitly advised citizens to follow Dr. Fitzgerald's advice on air quality and to get information only from official and trusted sources, such as Government of Newfoundland and Labrador websites and social media. This all paints a picture of a government asserting total control and taking what it clearly considered very serious, decisive action.
This immediately raises a critical question, doesn't it? At what point does a measure ostensibly deemed necessary for public protection cross the line into becoming an overreach?
Exactly.
And the Moose on the Loose source delivers a very vocal, intense, and deeply critical take on these measures, arguing that they are wildly disproportionate, misdirected, and frankly unconscionable.
Okay, so what's their main argument?
The host of that video did not mince words, calling the new rules insane, taking away civil liberties, and an absolute disgrace. Their central argument is a fundamental one. You cannot and should not punish everyone for the actions of a few irresponsible people.
Right, punish the actual offender.
Precisely. Instead of blanket bans that impact law-abiding citizens, they suggest implementing targeted alternatives. For instance, placing solar-powered cameras on popular trails to identify and prosecute actual offenders.
Okay, technology as a tool.
Yeah. They believe temporary bans on specific, genuinely fire-causing activities like campfires, the use of ATVs and dirt bikes in dry areas, or the improper disposal of cigarette butts would be far more logical and effective. But they explicitly and emphatically argue against banning innocent non-fire-causing activities like simply walking or hiking.
So it's not just a critique of the policy's effectiveness, but a full-blown indictment of the government's entire approach. They feel it's fundamentally unfair.
Absolutely. The source goes much further, labeling the law as anti-human and directly accusing the government of being draconian, power-hungry politicians who are not serving the best interests of Canadians.
Wow, power-hungry politicians, that's strong language.
Incredibly strong. Claiming the government is ripping off taxpayer money and lying to Canadians, going so far as to assert that the ban is intentionally trying to destroy Atlantic Canadians' mental health.
Destroy mental health? How so?
The argument seems to be that access to nature, hiking, being outdoors is crucial for well-being, and arbitrarily taking that away has severe negative consequences, especially when, in their view, it's not even necessary for fire prevention.
Okay.
The video host points out what they see as a glaring, almost absurd inconsistency. Activities genuinely known to cause fires, like lawn mowing, which can create sparks by striking rocks in dry conditions, are not banned.
Interesting point.
While walking inactive, an activity that, by its very nature, does not cause fires, is banned. The Moose on the Loose source explicitly declares, quote, "This has nothing to do with stopping forest fires," implying a deeper, more nefarious motivation behind the government's actions.
That's a powerful and deeply unsettling claim, suggesting there's a different agenda at play beyond just fire prevention. So what does this all mean? We're witnessing an incredibly sharp divide in perspectives.
Clearly.
On one side, a government emphasizing severe deterrence and protection, maybe feeling backed into a corner by the fire risk. On the other, a furious public backlash questioning the proportionality and logic of these measures, seeing them less as a genuine safety measure and more as a profound attack on fundamental freedoms.
It's a real clash.
And this isn't just an isolated incident in Newfoundland, is it? You mentioned New Brunswick.
That's right. New Brunswick's Premier Susan Holt also enacted similar, albeit slightly different, restrictions effective almost simultaneously on August 10th. Their measures included prohibiting hiking, camping, fishing, and the use of vehicles in the woods, with trail systems explicitly off-limits.
So very similar bans.
Very similar. Camping was only allowed in designated campgrounds, though the public was still advised to reconsider even those. Initially, New Brunswick's restrictions didn't mention the immediate hefty fines or jail time seen in Newfoundland.
A key difference, perhaps.
Possibly. But the critique from the Moose on the Loose source still accused it of making absolutely no sense, particularly by punishing backpackers who are often self-sufficient and responsible, while still allowing campground camping, which might have its own associated risks, like campfires getting out of control.
Right, the logic seems inconsistent to the critics.
Exactly. And this broad application of bans, whether in Newfoundland or New Brunswick, has also drawn significant constitutional concerns, as highlighted by Marty Moore, a constitutional lawyer. His arguments are prominently featured in the Moose on the Loose source.
Okay, a legal challenge perspective.
Yes. While his specific comments refer to a Nova Scotia order, the legal principles he raises apply broadly to such sweeping government measures across Canada. Moore argues, with considerable alarm, that these orders are bad and probably worse than you think, going so far as to label them a climate change power grab.
A power grab? That's a serious accusation. What's his reasoning?
He points out their immense breadth, stating they apply even to private property and prohibit entry into the woods for any other purpose without a valid permit. This means simply being in or near a wooded area without specific official permission could be considered a violation.
So it's not just about what you're doing, but literally where you're standing. That seems extraordinarily broad for a liberal democracy.
That's precisely his point. Moore claims such broad orders constitute an unconstitutional violation of people's liberty interests, including what he asserts is a fundamental right to roam, which he believes is implicitly protected under Canadian Constitution, Section 7.
Section 7, right to life, liberty, security of the person.
Exactly. To support his argument, he even references a 1994 Supreme Court case about banning loitering, suggesting a precedent for limitations on broad prohibitions of public movement.
Okay.
The core logic of the ban is heavily questioned by Moore. Is it really necessary to protect the woods to prohibit somebody from walking on a path? He points out that one careless step doesn't cause a fire.
Right.
He proposes that instead of blanket bans that affect everyone, the focus should be on punishing those who do start fires with heavy fines and creating robust incentives for reporting them.
Target the behavior, not the presence.
That's the essence of it. Moore's philosophical take is stark and unwavering. He states that this law views people as the problem, not dangerous activities, a deeply concerning premise for a democratic society. He even quotes Thomas Jefferson, a pivotal figure in the history of liberty. Dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery, to underscore his point that the potential for misuse of freedom is preferable to the absolute control of a populace.
Wow. Strong stuff.
Very. Given the sweeping, unprecedented nature of these orders, a constitutional challenge and judicial review are not just anticipated but expected by legal experts like Moore.
This debate truly shows how incredibly complex these situations can get. On one hand, you have governments grappling with a very real and escalating threat from wildfires, especially with climate change increasing the risks of megafires.
Undeniably.
They are trying to protect communities, property, and lives, and they're under immense pressure to act decisively. On the other hand, you have this powerful, deeply felt counter-argument that such broad bans are an overreach,
potentially ineffective, and fundamentally infringe on people's basic freedoms and well-being.
Right.
Even leading to these accusations of a power grab. It's a real clash of priorities, isn't it? Safety versus liberty.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see a complex, often agonizing interplay of scientific fact, public policy, and deeply held beliefs about freedom. The dilemma of human-caused fires is undeniable, with nearly 90% of wildfires ignited by human activity.
That number again.
Some level of human intervention or regulation becomes necessary. The challenge then becomes finding that delicate, almost impossible balancing act. How do we protect our communities and precious ecosystems from the devastating effects of fire, while simultaneously preserving access to nature for recreation, for mental health, and for overall well-being?
It's a tough needle to thread.
It really is. The Moose on the Loose source's anti-human argument is particularly powerful in this context. It suggests that a blanket ban which treats all individuals as potential threats punishes innocent people and negatively impacts mental health,
Right.
rather than specifically targeting the dangerous behaviors that actually cause fires. This raises fundamental questions about the effectiveness of deterrence versus addressing underlying causes.
Like the fuel buildup and climate change.
Exactly. While increased fines and severe penalties aim for deterrence, the deeper causes of fire, including the massive fuel accumulation from past fire suppression policies and the accelerating impacts of climate change, often remain unaddressed by such broad, blunt restrictions.
So the ban might be a Band-Aid on a bigger problem.
That's one interpretation, yes. What's also crucial here is the role of knowledge and a more sophisticated understanding of fire itself. Understanding the ecological benefits of fire, as detailed by our science sources like SciShow and TED-Ed,
Regenerative sci.
fundamentally complicates the simplistic narrative of fire is bad, ban all access. Controlled burns, for instance, are a proactive measure that actually uses fire in a managed way to prevent larger, more destructive blazes.
Right.
This suggests that a more nuanced, ecologically informed approach, one that combines targeted prevention, robust education, and active land management, might be a more effective long-term solution than simply excluding the public entirely.
This raises an incredibly important question for all societies facing these challenges. In the face of undeniable climate changes and the escalating risk of megafires, how do we truly adapt? Do we reflexively resort to restricting public access as a primary, immediate measure?
With seemingly easier options sometime.
Maybe. Or do we invest more heavily in smarter, more targeted prevention, comprehensive public education, and proactive ecological fire management, like those prescribed burns we discussed? It's a fundamental question of how we choose to coexist with the natural world and manage its immense dual power.
A very big question.
We've taken quite a deep dive today into a specific emotionally charged situation in Newfoundland, but what stands out to you about how communities around the world grapple with the escalating realities of wildfires?
Yeah, it's a global issue.
We've journeyed from the sheer wild beauty of a hiker's paradise to a nuanced understanding of fire science as both destructive and regenerative, and finally into the heated, often furious debate surrounding government decisions to restrict public access to these very natural spaces.
The core tension here clearly revolves around public safety, the deeply held right to access nature, and what constitutes the most appropriate, effective, and frankly ethical response to environmental threats like wildfires. Is the primary focus on punishing potential accidental causes, even if it means infringing on innocent activities? Or is it on managing the overall fire risk through more comprehensive means, such as proactive forest management and targeted educational campaigns?
Right.
And how do we factor in the crucial ecological role of fire, its necessity for healthy ecosystems, when making policy decisions that profoundly affect both human lives and the long-term health of our planet? It's complicated.
So what does this all mean for you as a learner in a world grappling with these complex issues? Perhaps the key takeaway is that issues like this are rarely, if ever, black and white.
Almost never.
They force us to consider multiple, often conflicting perspectives. The awe-inspiring, untamed beauty of nature, the raw and sometimes terrifying power of a natural phenomenon like fire, and the incredibly complex choices societies are forced to make when these two forces collide. It's a balancing act with no easy answers.
Absolutely. And this raises an important question for you to ponder long after this deep dive. In an increasingly fire-prone world, how do we best coexist with nature? How do we allow for its wildness, enjoy its beauty, and protect our communities? Without, as one powerful source argues, viewing people themselves as the inherent problem. Consider that balance between what Thomas Jefferson called dangerous freedom and peaceful slavery in your own understanding of such mandates.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?